Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome into the space. Hello and good afternoon. We'll give it just a couple more minutes so that folks could get in and get um, into the space. So we should be able to get started at about 6:05. We're just giving folks a couple minutes to get into the space, and I will start to share my screen soon.
Oh, Sharonda, I can let in the RCOs to the panelist. Would that
Mhm.
be good?
Yes.
Go ahead and do that. Okay.
And then also just wanted to share that we will be recording this session. We record all of the dams. And so you should have gotten a message saying that this session will be recorded. And I'm going to start to share my screen now.
And if there's anyone from an RCO that wants to be promoted to a panelist to present on the sides, feel free to raise your hand and I can let you in. Okay. All right, sounds good. Got a few here.
And can everyone see my screen okay? Just a thumbs up would be good.
Yes, I can see it.
All right. Well, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. We can go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, to the Hill District Dam. We typically host these meetings the third Mondays of the month, but because yesterday was a holiday, it was scheduled for this evening, Tuesday, February 18th. And so the item on the agenda today is an overview and presentation of the Hill District Master Plan update and process thus far. And welcome to the RCOs for the Hill District community. So the Hill District Consensus Group, the Hill District Community Development Corporation, the Hill District Collaborative, Shenley Heights Collaborative, as well as Uptown Partners. So just a little bit of background information. What is a registered community organization or an RCO? So this is a community organization that has applied to obtain formal status as a registered community organization or RCO within the city. RCOs play a formal role in helping to channel community input about development projects in their geographic area in the city, as well as developing neighborhood plans. And so becoming an RCO requires certain criteria related to organizational standards and transparency, as well as communication. And there's also a biannual or every 2-year application and renewal process through city planning. So what we are here at tonight is a development activities meeting, or a DAM for short. And so a DAM provides an opportunity for an applicant to present their proposal to the community so that the community can ask questions and give comments. It is one part of the development process for projects that meet specified thresholds before they have to go to a public board or commission hearing for actual hearing and action. And so this below is a little bit of a flow chart that kind of explains where the development activity meeting or the DAM meeting is in the process. And so these typically occur 30 days before any sort of public hearing or board or commission hearing about a particular development proposal. And so, what requires a dam? So, the listing here of any number of projects and new developments, everything from new construction to new residential units to parking to anything that might require a variance or zoning map amendments. And so, this listing are the projects and proposals that trigger a dam ahead of any board or commission hearing. And so comments from the dam will be shared with registered community organizations. And so any projects presented at a dam will go forward to either a planning commission or a ZBA or any sort of HRC historic review commission. And so for tonight, we are talking about an overview of the Hill District Master Plan update and what the process might look like for adopting a plan for the Hill District. And so to provide any sort of public input, you can visit the Engage PGH page to comment on the individual chapters of the Greater Hill District Master Plan. You can also email Planning Commission at pittsburghpa.gov with any comments that you may have from tonight's meeting. You can also send actual physical mail to our address here at 412 Boulevard of the Allies, Suite 201, Pittsburgh, PA 15219. And then also, you can attend any sort of planning commission meeting about the adoption later on to provide any sort of comments um, at that time. And then also, you have the feature to either raise your hand or provide comments in the chat box tonight on this Zoom. And so again, the agenda for this evening is to provide an overview of the Greater Hill District Master Plan thus far, and to provide a status update, and to also have some time to engage with this group. And so again, updating the Greater Hill District Master Plan for potential adoption later on. And then also, this is understanding that this is a neighborhood plan for Greater Hill District. So that includes Crawford Roberts, including the Lower Hill, Bedford Dwellings, Terrace Village, the Middle Hill, and the Upper Hill. And this evening, we are the presenters of the Department of City Planning. And so again, because there are multiple RCOs representing the Hill District, we are coordinating this meeting, or this DAM. And so we will also allow opportunity for the individual RCOs to provide some sort of introduction and share a little bit about their organization and about any engagements or involvement that they've had on the items on the agenda tonight. And so with that, we will open it up to the Hill District Consensus Group to share. Is there anyone from the Hill District Consensus Group on the line today?
Yes, hi, Sharonda. This is Brett Collins.
Hello, go ahead.
Hi. Yes, thank you. And hi, Christian.
Hello.
Hi. So I am Brett Collins. I am the RCO coordinator for the Hill District Consensus Group. You can go to the next slide. All right, so I know that we are all very familiar here, but the Hill District Consensus Group mission is to create effective pathways for intergenerational residents to overcome economic, social, and housing disparities. We stand for equity and social justice as it relates to race, class, gender, our true heritage, and other areas of disenfranchisement in our community. And we are committed to standing up for policy change and ill will political practices to help improve the conditions of our community. We believe the people that are, so sorry, marginalized by injustice have rights and should play a central key role in our community. Apologize, I'm having a hard time seeing. Next slide, thank you. All right, and keeping it short and sweet, our February 2025 DAM meeting for the City Planning Department presenting the Greater Hill District Master Plan draft for approval and adoption. The Hill District Consensus Group does not support approval or adoption of the updated Greater Hill District Master Plan. Just to add, we are seeking more of a review process and also to extend the amount of time to engage the community. The Hill District Consensus Group was invited to participate in the steering committee as of March of 2024. Next slide. And you are able to stay connected with us through Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, by email. And thank you.
Thank you. And next we have the Hill District Collaborative.
Hi, this is Britt Collins again. I do work also with the Hill District Collaborative. Both the Hill District Consensus Group and Hill District Collaborative making a joint effort to review development projects in the Hill to make it more cohesive and collaborative. So I will be reviewing these slides. Next slide. So the Hill District Collaborative is a not-for-profit registered community organization representing the historic Hill District. We were formed by concerned Hill District residents and business owners who want to ensure a clear community development service, review process with a high level of community engagement. I apologize. My son gets very passionate about this. We became a City of Pittsburgh registered community organization on March 9th of 2022. Next slide. So our vision is to have the Hill District redeveloped into a safe and economically thriving community that maintains its historical culture. Our mission is to inform, engage, and connect Hill District residents, landowners, business owners, and nonprofits so that the community's interests and positions can influence decisions on real estate development, economic development, and public safety. Our purpose is to cultivate a collaborative forum that is inclusive and respects all community members. Next slide. We can bypass this just because this kind of goes into our focus areas and development review process. We can actually, okay, so this is a later or a previous slide we typically go through with other developers. To jump to the end, because I don't think that we have it for the February, because I did that slide that came in a little bit later. With regards to Hill District Collaborative stance on the adoption of the Greater Hill District Master Plan update, we do not approve the adoption or implementation or immediate adoption and implementation of the Greater Hill District Master Plan draft. We are requiring additional review to ensure that the entire 130-page document is completely understood by our residents. So we are looking to extend the period for community engagement and to formalize an appropriate plan to guarantee that the community is engaged and able to provide appropriate feedback. And if you would like to connect with us, here is our information. You are able to email us. We have a website, and we are also available on social media, Instagram and Facebook. Thank you so much, Christian and Sharonda.
Thank you. Next, Uptown Partners for Pittsburgh.
Hello. Yes. Hi, Sharonda. Hi, Christian. Hope you guys are doing good. This is Michaela Scheckler with Uptown Partners of Pittsburgh. I'm the real estate and development manager here, and our slides are pretty short and sweet. So, if you want to just go ahead and go to the next slide. So yes, at Uptown Partners of Pittsburgh, we're a team of 3. It's me, like I said, Dashnik Johnson, who's our community project manager, as well as Dr. Brittany McDonald Pierce, who is our executive director. Go to the next slide, please. All right, so as far as our mission, we are a community-based organization of residents, institutions, and business owners working together to build a vibrant, sustainable, and just community for all. And we accomplish this through the implementation of the Uptown Eco Innovation District Plan, or the EID plan, the city's first adopted neighborhood plan, which focuses on 4 facets of community development. That's community, infrastructure development, and mobility. You can go to the next slide, please. As far as our opinion on this particular master plan, we're just yielding to the opinions of the other RCOs, as this is more in their neck of the woods. So we will yield to their opinions and what they think is going to be best. But if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can contact me. My email is there, as well as my phone number, and that's our office location. Thank you, guys.
Great, thank you, Michaela. Next, we have the Hill CDC.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Diane Day, and I'm with the Hill CDC. If you'll turn to the next slide, please. So just a little bit of information about the Hill CDC. We are a place-based organization. We focus on the redevelopment and revitalization of the historic Greater Hill District. We like to say it's where cultural legacy meets future innovation, and we are now celebrating over 38 years of operation. We were founded in 1987. Next slide. Our work focuses on the areas of people of the Hill, places of the Hill, and the policies that affect the Hill District. Next slide. Our mission: the Hill CDC works in partnership with residents and stakeholders to create, promote, and implement strategies and programs that connect plans, policies, and people to drive compelling community development opportunities in the Greater Hill District. Next slide, please. Our work involves real estate development, including the commercial corridor and home ownership, economic development programs, including businesses and entrepreneurship opportunities, home ownership preparation, and building an art and cultural corridor. Our work also involves policy and planning, the promotion of equitable development, as well as neighborhood planning. Next slide. Our resident engagement includes advocacy and partnership, which is essential to our progress. And so we operate using the Hill District Development Review Panel. It is a unified community review process. It is involved with a panel of residents, which is responsible for providing individual resident scoring, which gives us our community input. Next slide, please. We have reviewed over 60 projects with the DRP, and our Hill District residents have a voice in the future redevelopment of the community. And so anybody that's interested in looking at our projects that have been reviewed by the DRP, they are able to see them right off of our website, which is hilldistrict.org/DRP. Next slide, please. Just a little bit of background about the DRP. The DRP streamlines community review on behalf of the Hill District community, and when it comes to planning and development. The DRP was founded over a decade ago, and you can see the individual signatures of the original DRP members and the steering committee for the DRP. This DRP model was designed and adopted by the Hill CDC after negotiations with the community partners and stakeholders, as well as elected officials. Next slide. As our process was strengthened and proven, multiple organizations were added as members to ensure collaboration and partnership. As of today, there are 7 Hill District organizations responsible for this 9-person body of appointed individuals of the DRP committee. Next slide. The DRP is a 2-step process. The first step is focused on a deep dive review and scoring at the committee level with our DRP members. If a plan is aligned with the Greater Hill District Master Plan, the second step is to advance the plan for a community to review and vote. Each and every resident is allowed to vote. A cumulative score of 80% or more is needed to complete the process. As in RCO, the Hill District only endorses development projects that have been completed by the DRP. In this particular case, the Hill CDC will support the facilitation of a robust review of the Greater Hill District Master Plan by the DRP and Hill District residents. Next page. My partner, Dylan Brown, will review the adoption process for the Greater Hill District Master Plan.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Diane. So the Hill CDC's involvement with the Greater Hill District Master Plan, which, just for your reference, we often refer to by its acronym, GHDMP for short. The involvement of the Hill CDC with this master plan dates back to its original creation in 2011. After several years of working to facilitate the implementation of this master plan across the neighborhood through processes like the Development Review Panel, which Diane gave an overview of, the Hill CDC recognized the need for codification or adoption by the city of Pittsburgh. So as early as 2017, the Hill CDC began to advocate for the formal adoption of our master plan to ensure that all Hill District developments align with the community's vision and to protect the Hill District's interests. So completing this update and adoption process to incorporate the master plan into the city's zoning code and regulatory framework for all future Hill District developments. That is what this process will accomplish. The adoption of our master plan is going to synchronize city agencies with the community's vision for its future. Next slide. As was mentioned by previous presenters, there is an extensive list of community members that have been involved with this process. This is the list of the Greater Hill District Master Plan Steering Committee, which have been involved for many years on the update and adoption of the master plan. Our president and CEO, Marimba Malyans, is a co-chair with Council President Daniel Lavelle. Next slide. So I just want to talk very quickly about why timing matters and why we are encouraging this process to move forward. The Greater Hill District Master Plan is set to be the last community plan adopted before the city's priorities shift towards the comprehensive plan, which will affect the entire city. So any delays to this process may compromise the master plan's adoption, which could complicate future advocacy efforts for any developments in the neighborhood. Next slide. So we always at the Hill CDC say that advocacy should be Plan B. And by updating and adopting the master plan for the neighborhood, that would allow a lot of time and energy to be freed up from having to advocate for greater alignment with our Hill District master plan by shifting that responsibility to the city. In every step of its review of a project, it will have to be decided if the project is in alignment with the goals of the master plan. And so that is why codification by the city of Pittsburgh is extremely important. Next slide. As the process moves forward, we will be hosting the Department of City Planning and its staff at our upcoming Hill District Community Meeting on Tuesday, February 25th, as a part of the public engagement process, which the steering committee helped develop. Please register in advance for this meeting at hilldistrict.org/register. You can always stay apprised as well through our Hill District Weekend Roundup, which you can sign up through hilldistrict.org/sign-up. Next slide. So that is the conclusion of our presentation. Like I said, you can join our email list. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Blue Sky. We also have a LinkedIn presence. We look forward to hearing the city's presentation and any questions that people may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dylan and Diane. Next, we have Shenley Heights Collaborative. Is anyone on the call for Shenley Heights?
I'll take a look through the attendees to see if we can find someone. Yeah, if there's anyone with this group, feel free to raise your hand and we can promote you to a panelist. All right, great. It looks like we see one here.
Okay.
So we will go ahead and promote. Thank you for that. But I could also allow the talk. Let's see.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. I'm Phyllis Lavelle, working with the Shenley Heights Collaborative. We are an all-volunteer group. We organized in 2002. We work only in the Shenley Heights neighborhood. Right now, our focus is primarily on total gut rehab of all the vacant houses that stand in the neighborhood. We do a total gut rehab in partnership with PHDC. To date, we've completed, I would say, about 7 houses, 6 of which have been sold almost as soon as they were ready to go on the market. We are in the middle of 2 now, and we have about 6 more to do. And quite frankly, that's all that needs to be said about us. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I will stop sharing and get into the presentation. Just one moment. And can everyone see my screen? All right, thank you. So again, good evening, everybody. My name is Sharonda Watley. I am Assistant Director of Strategic Planning for the Department of City Planning. And we are here tonight to give an overview of the Greater Hill District Master Plan update process to date, and then also to give an overview of what the next couple of months will look like on the road to adoption of the Hill District Master Plan. So with me this evening are a number of dedicated staff here in the Department of City Planning, and I'll allow themselves to introduce themselves. But first, we do want to acknowledge that the previous planning manager, Akin Lowton, really shepherded this project and this process for several years. And so a lot of her work was with the in the Hill District and also with this master plan update. So we definitely wanted to take a moment to give her her flowers. And so again, my name is Sharonda Watley, and I'll turn it over to Christian to introduce himself.
Yes, hi everyone. Good evening. My name is Christian Umbach. I'm also a neighborhood planner with the city. I work in parts of the East and Central and supporting this process to adopt the Hill District Master Plan. I focus on the development chapter as kind of the topic, and yeah, happy to be a resource. I will pass it over to my colleague Adriana.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adriana Bowman. I'm also a neighborhood planner here at the department. I actually primarily work with Homewood and other neighborhoods in the East End, and I primarily worked on the mobility chapter. And I will pass this over to my colleague, AJ Herzog.
Hi everyone, I'm AJ. I'm a neighborhood planner in the area of like Hazelwood, Squirrel Hill, Greenfield, and I primarily worked on the infrastructure chapter, and I will pass it to Jasmine.
Hey everyone, good evening. My name is Jasmine Rudolph. I serve as a public engagement specialist for the city, and I'm supporting this process to build a robust engagement process that meets residents where they are. I'll pass it to AJ Jefferson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Austin Jefferson. I am an engagement specialist within the Department of City Planning, assisting alongside my peer, Jasmine Rudolph, and assisting the other planners, Planner Herzog, Planner Bowman, Planner Umbach, and Assistant Director Wiley, in going forward with this Greater Hill District Master Plan adoption.
Thank you. So just a little bit of an overview of what we're gonna share this evening. Wanting to recap some of the timeline since this process started in 2020, and then also to provide an overview of the draft plan and its contents. And so it'll help to explain the structure of the document and highlight the goals from the four topical chapters. And then also to talk a little bit about next steps, which include review and what the adoption process would look like. So we do want to acknowledge that we are building on previous planning work and initiatives in the Hill. And so we've collected a number of different initiatives and studies that were done previously that inform the Greater Hill District Master Plan update. And so those include the Hill District Greenprint, as well as the Greater Hill District Master Plan from 2011, the Heron Avenue Revitalization Strategy from 2011, the Hill District Vacant Property Study from 2013, the Center Avenue Corridor Redevelopment and Design Plan from 2015, the Choice Neighborhood Plan, which is the Bedford Connects Transformation Plan from 2018, and then the Great Return of the Hill from 2023, the Shenley Heights Toolkit, and the Upper Hill Plan. And so, again, we wanted to recap just a little bit in terms of the process and the timeline. And so the neighborhood planning process kind of breaks up the timeline in 5 sort of phases or buckets. So they are organize, visualize, strategize, formalize, and realize. And so the organization phase began in summer 2020 through winter 2021. And so this is where the city and the community really prepared for the planning process. Phase 2, which is visualize, this happened between winter 2021 and summer 2021, and so it identified any issues and opportunities not addressed by previous plans. Phase 3 was strategize, so summer 2021 to summer 2022, developing projects and programs. And then phase 4, which is where we are right now, which is formalizing. So this is where we are assembling and reviewing and laying out a roadway to adopt the neighborhood plan for the Greater Hill District. And so again, this is set for winter 2024 till now. And then the next phase will be realized. And so this is after adoption and what the implementation plan looks like for the next 10 years based on the Greater Hill District Master Plan. And again, so we do want to acknowledge that there needs to be a robust public comment period. So typically we have allowed the steering committee at minimum 30 days to have a discussion draft of the plan. And so they see the draft content in terms of text and policies and goals and strategies. And so they have a certain amount of time to review as the steering committee. And then we also have a public comment draft that's available for the community to really dig into and to provide comment on. Usually we set that as 45 days. And so in additional conversation with the steering committee and as well as leadership here in city planning, we want to set that as a minimum of 60 days. And so this will be time for the community to ask questions, to comment, to meet with city planning, to meet with fellow RCOs, to really dig into what the content of the plan is. And so once those 60 days start, there will be notification of when that sort of minimum 60 days starts. And so we wanted to make sure that folks were aware that we are still in a leg of the process that allows for community input as well as additional shaping of the draft plan. And so just to give, again, a very high level overview of what plan adoption might look like. So again, we are here today in late February, February 18th, to share the overview of the draft plan with the community. And then also having an unveiling event for the actual draft plan that will help to make sure that people understand that they are in the public comment period of the plan. And so a lot of engagement can occur over the spring for the draft plan itself. And then once that is complete, we start to prepare for presenting the plan for adoption to the Planning Commission. And so again, just wanting to give a high level overview of what folks can expect when they dig into the draft plan for review. So it is laid out as these distinct chapters with an introduction and also a chapter on process and engagement, which lays out what the process has been and what the engagement has been to date. And then also a specific chapter on community, as well as a chapter on development, a chapter on mobility, and a chapter on infrastructure. And so again, just so that folks are understanding what they're going to encounter in the plan, each chapter has a vision statement as well as goals, priorities, and strategies. And so the vision statement will provide a description of what the neighborhood will be in 10 years as the plan is successful. The goals are the long-term outcomes that the plan will achieve by implementing programs, policies, and projects. And then the policies are a set of preferred directions, and they describe what must be done to achieve those goals. And then the strategies can look like programs, projects, or partnerships. And so these seek to realize the goal in a long term. And so we are going to do a little bit of an overview of each chapter, starting with community. And so the guiding vision for the community chapter is that the Hill District is committed to cultivating a neighborhood that excels in livability, celebrates and preserves its rich historical heritage, and promotes the health and resilience of all residents. To grow as a livable, vibrant community with flourishing businesses and infrastructure utilized by empathetic, engaged, and healthy residents and visitors. The Hill District must develop strong, interconnected, and cooperative physical and social components. And so here we are really wanting to build upon the African American cultural legacy in the Hill. And so there are a handful of topics that are covered in this particular section. And so they include community welfare, public art, public health, and schools and related programs. And so as you all start to dig into the draft plan, you will see that there are 8 specific goals, 15 specific policies, and 38 different strategies. And so we won't go through all of them here tonight, but we wanted to give you a snapshot of what each chapter contains. And so we will show this evening a handful of strategies and policies associated with each chapter. So, for example, for the community goals, strategy 1 is to ensure Hill District residents can have all their basic needs met within a 20-minute walk or roll of their home. A second strategy is that the Hill District will focus on long-term community resilience with self-sufficiency, equity, representative leadership and governance, and improved health as outcomes as guiding principles. And then also another goal or strategy is to have a mix of new and rehabilitated housing that will serve multiple generations in the Hill without fear of displacing existing residents and reduce barriers to housing. And then also the future of the Hill District will build upon and further emphasize the neighborhood's African American cultural legacy. And then similarly, some additional goals that we wanted to highlight is that the relationship between law enforcement and community residents should be built on trust, cooperation, and effective communication. And that public art in the Hill should be reflective of the community's cultural identity and foster individual expression, as well as another goal of having positive health outcomes that are promoted throughout the Hill District by providing healthy food, buying and access options for residents. And then another goal, as an example, are educational outcomes should be improved through strong community partnerships and investments and resources that create an environment for success for children. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Christian to talk about the development chapter.
Yes, thank you, Sharonda. For the development chapter, it follows a similar format. So it has its own set of goals as well as policies and strategies. And so I'll quickly read through the vision statement for this chapter. The Hill District is committed to preserving its rich African American legacy and placekeeping while continuing to become a desirable destination for living, working, and visiting. Embracing new development and economic opportunities, the master plan aims to rectify historic injustices and enhance the well-being of its current residents through equitable growth, community engagement, improved housing accessibility, and adherence to high standards of design. So that's kind of the overall vision. And as you can see, there's a few key topics that are listed here as well. When we think about equitable economic development, another way to think of that is that the residents and really all groups in the Hill are encouraged and invited to participate and benefit from investment and developments in the Hill both today and tomorrow. When we think about housing, it's ensuring that it meets the diverse needs of the community and ensures affordability. And the land use and zoning are kind of able to accommodate equitable development and housing. Urban sustainable design is how our buildings can be green and how we can rely on clean energy. And then the final one, commercial corridors, is kind of focused on how they can increase in their vibrancy. and serve the community. Next slide, please. All right, so what we'll do here is we'll kind of go through the 10 main goals. And I'll describe a little bit of some of the strategies beneath them. So the first one is essentially to minimize displacement. Some of the strategies under here include co-ownership opportunities, as well as preserving space for Hill District businesses in new and existing developments. The next one, all development plans should benefit the existing community, but also allow for future growth. So this kind of seeks a balance. While we do welcome new development, we have to make sure it benefits the community and its values. The next one, the highlight here is to honor the historical and cultural legacy of the Hill District, which we know is very rich. One of the elements of the plan is a cultural research survey. So that would be a program where we could document some of those assets to highlight in new developments. The next one is access to employment. Some of the strategies associated with this include focus on job training and preference for local hiring for new developments projects. Next slide, please. All right, another key item is to mitigate displacement risks. We know that that has been and continues to be an ongoing challenge as we see new investment in the community. Some of the programs seeking to address this include tenant protection, as well as the maintenance of existing housing stock. This can be through home buying and homeowner assistance programs. Those are just a few examples. There is a focus on affordable housing, and within the strategies, there's guidance so that a certain percentage of new units built in the Hill would be affordably priced. The seventh one, it's kind of a dense one, but it's essentially a land use strategy, how we see the future development on a broad scale. So this includes the use of vacant land, which we know there is a decent amount of vacant land. So that means there is opportunity for how we use those spaces. And there's also opportunity to encourage the stewardship of community stakeholders so that they can have a say in the use of this land. One of the items here is thinking about zoning. You can see the existing zoning map there. One of the recommendations is to think about how we can update zoning. And the plan's very specific about making sure that's a community-driven engagement process so that at the local level, we can make sure that the zoning fits the needs of the community. And there would be a significant engagement process. So it's not just, zoning coming in really quickly, but we can really think through it. Other items on that have to do with vacant property stabilization. So this would be trying to preserve properties before just demolition. And then when we think about the end uses of vacant lands, ensuring that the community's values and intentions for those vacant lots, that input is used in the decision making for vacant land. Next slide, please. All right, so when we think about green and sustainable development, this can be green strategies for our building design, and this can also be thinking about clean and renewable energy within new developments and within existing areas. Another goal is to enhance the social, cultural, and historic characteristics of the built environment as well as the natural environment. And that's one that's actually consistent, I think, through a lot of these. And then the final one is a focus on our commercial corridors. The plan identifies a few of these. There is a focus on Heron Avenue. And there were some reasons of how we got here, but recognizing that there's been existing development in other commercial corridors, but this plan outlines how we could get started as a catalyst for development along Heron Avenue. And so this is a little bit closer dive into this area. It addresses pre-development barriers, so how we can kind of work through those to get going. There's a decent amount of vacant land on this stretch, so it provides guidance for potential end uses. You know, what areas could be built and the uses that could be different commercial uses, as well as what spaces could be open spaces or more community uses. And then another element of that is mobility, thinking about the street itself and enhancements to the pedestrian and bicycle facilities as well as how the corridor connects to the rest of the neighborhood and beyond. So yeah, so hopefully that's a good overview of the 10 main goals from the development chapter. And within each that, like I said, there's more strategies. And once we're all able to review the plan, we can dig into those. So thank you. I'll pass it back over to Sharonda.
Hello,
Oh, actually, sorry, I'll pass it to Adriana. My bad.
Yeah. For the mobility chapter, we really wanted to focus on having a safe and connected Hill District. That is what we heard from the community and our action teams, and also in the transportation study that we did. And so the topics we covered in this chapter included transit, stations, bus services, making sure that pedestrians are able to walk safely to where they need to go, addressing parking, that was also a big issue identified, and also bike infrastructure. So the vision statement was the Hill District will have an improved mobility and transportation network that better connects residents to jobs, services, and amenities, creates a destination that is accessible for all, and aligns with the community's culture and legacy. There were 8 goals, 25 policies, and 45 brilliant strategies. Next slide, please. So the first few goals are focused on making transit connections accessible, affordable, and efficient, and strengthening the transit network in the Hill District, and also making sure that stops, station areas, are hubs that people want to be at, that they're very comfortable, safe, and people enjoy using them. And some of the strategies included in this was participating in the PRT bus line redesign, working with PRT to make sure all amenities and bus stops are accessible, and just improving neighborhood connections to transit stops. Next slide, please. We also talked about different forms of mobility and safety. For example, having a walkable neighborhood with connected sidewalks and beautiful streetscapes, so people feel like they are part of the community and have like a beautiful walk to work. Also making sure the mobility network is accessible to people of all ages, races, abilities, and income levels. Making sure there is a vision zero so that there are 0 traffic fatalities in the Hill District, and also making sure it is a safe and well-connected place for all modes of travel, such as bicycle or other micromobility, such as scooters, and that this will reflect the Hill District's context, and making sure that whatever infrastructure is put in reflects what the community wants and the community goals. Next slide, please. Lastly, we focus on managing parking, both on and off street, and making sure that development projects also manage parking and minimize the negative effects on traffic and parking for existing residents. And that should be all for mobility. And I'll pass it to AJ Herzog.
Hello, all. So lucky for you all, you won't have to hear me talk for long because I only have to cover 2 goals for this chapter. That's in large part due to the Hill District already having a Parks Master Plan. And so that covers a big component of the infrastructure section of this chapter. But that being said, underneath those 2 goals, there are still 6 policies and 17 strategies. So it's still very comprehensive in the topics it covers. The main overarching vision for the infrastructure chapter is to develop sustainable and resilient systems, covering everything from stormwater management to energy to recycling, again, to parks and open space as well. And so I'll go a little more into those two goals. We can go to the next slide. So the first infrastructure goal is to have accessible infrastructure systems, which covers, again, that whole swath of infrastructure from utilities, food, digital access or internet access, roads, stormwater infrastructure, and making sure that these systems are resilient. The next goal is that we want to contain a network of connected parks and green spaces. Again, a lot of this work that's in the infrastructure chapter was informed by the existing parks plan, as well as some additional insight there. And so that's the idea for the infrastructure chapter. And as we kind of mentioned, the idea here is to give an overview of the Greater Hill District Master Plan, but we are mostly focused on talking about engagement, and we want you all to do a deep dive into the master plan draft once we talk about how you can access that. And that way we can then collect feedback and make changes where they're needed. So to talk about how you can go about accessing the plan and providing that feedback, I'm going to pass it to Jasmine and Austin.
Hey, good evening. Thanks, AJ, and everyone else for that overview. We're now getting to next steps and how you can stay involved. So you can attend upcoming community meetings with your local RCOs. You can engage with your registered community organizations, elected official, and the steering committee. You can engage with us, your department and city planning staff, through the Engage PGA page. And that's also where you can provide feedback on the draft plan. If you go to the next slide, please. So here's your updated Engage PGH page. If we can put the link in the chat, and it's on the next slide as well. And here's the QR code that you can scan to go directly to it from your phone. This button shows where you can now review the draft plan that some of my colleagues just went over. And also right underneath there are each chapter is broken out, and you can provide feedback on each chapter if you click on the chapter after reviewing the document. So right now today, one of the main ways that you can give your feedback is going through the Engage PGH page and clicking on the chapter that you want to provide feedback, and your comments and concerns will be stored there. Let me go to the next slide, please. And these are some of the comments and ways that you can provide feedback on the Engage page. So that's what you'll see when you go there after clicking on the chapter that you would like to provide feedback. And then you can provide feedback on the vision statement as well as the goals that were presented. Next slide, please. So for the next part of the meeting, we're asking for a little feedback on the review process that AD Watley described in the beginning. So we have an extended review process, which is 60 days for this plan. The point and why we're trying to do this is to create a 60-day review period that will be as accessible to community members as possible. So we're looking for, when can we meet? Where should we meet? How should we meet? Should it be digital or should it be in person? And so we're really trying to get feedback in this part of the meeting, and we're going to do that through a poll about what engagement methods will work best for you and how we can help meet you where you are. So we want to create a review period that's also informed as much as possible by community voice. And we want to understand where we, the staff at DCP, can meet you where you are in your community and enhance those spaces where you can consult us and we can collaborate. So now I think we can launch the poll. And it was a goal of ours to try and use your time as wisely as possible. So we had the idea to allow you to complete the poll while we have you here in the meeting. We'll share a link to this poll if you're not able to view it, or if you're not able to complete it, then we can you can access it later. What you're seeing on the screen now is ideas that you all gave us from the last meeting about where we could meet you all. So some things that came up was this development activity meeting today, and so we are fulfilling that idea. There's also Bedford dwellings that's been brought up. And so these are some of the ideas that we already had that we just wanted to highlight and share with you all so that you can know what we've heard as you're filling out the survey. So the poll should be up on your screen. You can see question 1 talks about, should we meet in person, virtual, or both? We asked about days of the weeks as well as times. We want to make sure we have a youth voice, and so we're asking about where you think we might can help have this conversation with youth in the community, because we know that's a voice that we don't want to be left out. And so if there's any questions about this poll, feel free to ask in the Q&A or chat as you're filling it out. But we are hoping that we could get this done during the time that we have you, as a way to use your time as efficiently as possible. So now if we could go to the next slide. We have a timer, so we're going to allot about 5 minutes to start working on this poll, and then we'll check in after 5 minutes to see where people are, and if we need a little more time, we can allot, and if not, we can move on. Are we ready to start the timer? Okay, thank you. And thank y'all for providing your feedback as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, Miss Curl.
Yeah, the poll's not working for me. It's not.
Okay, the link is also in the chat, Miss Curl. Can you maybe access the link?
Okay.
See if that works. And if not, we'll get you the link directly to you.
Okay,
it
thank you.
may not allow panelists to fill out the poll, and so the link may work after this meeting ends for anyone that's a panelist. But if not, we can send a different survey later.
Thanks,
for those
AJ.
panelists. Yep.
For the panelists, if it is not working for you, the additional link inside the chat is live. So feel free as well in this time, if you would like, to take that alternate version of the survey. The questions and answers are the exact same.
Thanks, yeah, for clarifying and for having both of those options.
I may have seen a hand in one of the attendees. Did anyone raise their hand? Okay, yes, it looks like Loretta, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I was just saying I finished the poll, but I was unable to submit it for some reason because I answered all the questions. So I'll try later again. If not, I'll get in touch with your office. to see if I could
Okay.
do it.
Gotcha. Yeah, sorry to hear that.
I'll also check in the back end and see if we got the response.
There's a couple other people with their hands raised as well.
Hi, this is Tyann Battle from ACH Clear Pathways at the Kaufman Center. I, as well as Miss Lee Retta, completed it, but is unable to submit it.
Oh, yes. I think you're experiencing the same issue because you're a host and you're a panelist. So I too can see the questions and I can click in it. But you're right. I don't see any way to record it.
But
But
I'm
it's
not a
given.
host and I'm not a panelist either. I'm just an attendee.
I think because you're up here with us in this top screen for the webinar in Zoom, because you're I think you are a panelist. And so you may have to use the link in the chat. I apologize. I just wanted to give about a minute warning. We was going to spend 1 more minute on this, but we can definitely ask if people need more time, especially the panelists maybe who are just starting and getting that link from the chat.
Yeah, I see another hand from Kimberly Ellis.
Yes. Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, actually, and I'm sorry, I joined late. We were at the myself and Councilman LaBelle were at the F&B grand opening, so I apologize for that. So there's a few things that I just wanted to double check in terms of the master plan. Is the master plan, is it focusing on the 10% affordable housing that I keep hearing in the news that the mayor is touting, or are we at a different percentage? Because that's really important for us to understand.
Yeah.
Dr. Ellis, I can start to answer that. That's a really great question. The IZ of the inclusionary zoning was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission a few weeks ago. It is now with City Council, and so they are able to vote on that proposal as is, or provide some sort of amendment to that proposal as it was approved by Planning Commission.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. I'll keep following. And I just want to make sure that the Hill can be rightly competitive with everything else in the city. And I want
the document. And so the 10% is a regulatory baseline, so the bare minimum for any new construction coming forward once the city council approves it.
Yes. Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that the Hill District Master Plan reflects it. And while we may have wishes, so you know, in a number of different community meetings, I've heard different Hill residents say they want 10%. Some people want 20%. Some people want 30%, and even 40%. And with each of those percentages, it's one thing if you want public housing, that's something that's different, and that would be coming from the housing authority. But if we want development in our community that comes from private sources, we have to be competitive. And there's a way, I'm just speaking to the group here, I don't even know who's here, but there's a way to be competitive and to get what we want, while also not preventing development from happening in our community. And quite frankly, that is what has been happening. So I just wanted to make sure I made my wishes known. That's my first question and comment. The second is with regard to the development review panel that is hosted by the Hill CDC. You know, no offense, we're just all being candid here. I just want to make sure that the DRP is not being presented as required in terms of the Greater Hill District Master Plan, and that it should be noted that there are other organizations and methods of evaluating whatever development happens in the community. So that's a question. I don't know, you know, if it's been included or if anything has been stated about the DRP, but this is also another very important point.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you for that feedback, Dr. Ellis. We appreciate it. We do have a couple other hands up, but we also have some additional slides as well. So the 7 minutes have passed, and it looks like several folks have completed the poll, either through Zoom or through the link that we provided.
Which one?
Oh, and I should mention, I also filled out the poll, and I did everything, and I couldn't submit either. So there's some type of glitch.
Yeah, it didn't work for me either.
If you're on the panel with us, you'll have to use the link in the chat. You won't be able to use the poll.
That didn't work either. So you could email it to me.
Yeah, that did work for me, just so you know. So it may be inconsistent, but clicking on the link in the chat did work for at least some of the panelists. It worked for us. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all.
I do have a question about the office education, because we want to educate people about the master plan, right? But I see your office hours are at a cap. Are you gonna have some evening times or?
Yeah, so one of the ideas was to offer office hours for community members, either virtual or in person, physically in the Hill District, so that we can have conversations directly with folks. And so that's just one of the ideas. And so we are trying to create an engagement plan with you all's feedback from tonight and also the feedback from the steering committee, so that we can start to put some dates on calendars. And so how many are you seeing right now, Ms. Carroll? You said it's capped. How many are you seeing?
Oh, I took the poll down because it didn't work. Let me see.
There are 4 options
Can I ask
in
a
terms of the
clarifying
times.
question?
Yeah.
Can I ask what you mean by capped, Miss Curl? Can I ask what you mean by that?
I was talking about the office times. I
Yeah,
think
but what you mean by is capped?
that's what I mean. It seemed like you only had like afternoon.
No, like with this meeting starting at 6 and some of the RCOs that are volunteer run where people work in the daytime, we definitely can have hours that's accessible like around this time as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Malyans, for pointing it out.
And so just to wrap up the presentation portion, some things for everyone to look ahead or what to expect this spring. So the official start of the public comment period, we will definitely work with all of the organizations so that everyone knows when the official public comment period starts. And then also in preparation for that, the steering committee had the wonderful idea to create a promotional video about the Greater Hill District Master Plan. And so it will go over the process to date and how people can get engaged. And it's really meant to not only advertise and create awareness, but to share how we got to this place with the update of the Hill District Master Plan. And so that's something that'll also, we're aiming for that to be released and made public in the spring. And then also the plan unveiling. And so this is envisioned as an event with leaders in the community as well as leaders at the city of Pittsburgh to unveil the draft plan for the Greater Hill District Master Plan update. And so this will be the plan that goes to the draft plan that goes to Planning Commission for approval. And so we are still working on official dates for those things. And so that's an additional conversation to be had with steering committee and leaders from the community. But these are some things that the community can look out for this upcoming spring.
I see that we have a couple of questions, a couple hands raised. Assistant Director Watley.
Yes, I think we can take questions now. That was the end of the
Oh,
presentation that we had.
In the interest of fairness, there are comments and questions that are in the chat first. So I
Okay.
wanted to make sure we
Okay.
read those really quickly.
Yes.
So Renee Wilson said the master plan was formed in 2011. It would be great to be signed off on this plan now. We've waited long enough. And then there was the question from Dr. Ellis about the master plan reflecting 10% housing affordability. And Renee Wilson had said the Hill has 30% in the master plan. And then we had an anonymous attendee say, I can't support this master plan. It lacks community input and it's just an update of a plan from 20 years ago. A lot has changed since then. This feels like just another attempt to give control to the Hill CDC. And that's all the comments and questions so far.
Thank you, Adriana. You said that there were some additional hands raised?
A couple
yes.
people text me that they couldn't do the survey. That's why
Okay.
my hand was
Okay.
raised. So you can maybe tell
Okay.
them what.
I'll resubmit it in the chat.
Sorry, I missed a comment. From Renee Wilson, it says, so the two RCO who are together, do they have one vote or two? I am confused about this. And then that was the last one.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't think that that the vote, there's a vote per se, but those are two community groups, two community leaders that we do want to continue to engage with throughout this process. And so it sounds like they still have some questions. And so we do want to make sure that we meet with them to have those conversations to understand what those questions are.
I just wanted to point out that whoever the anonymous attendee is, happy to, get together with you all if you have questions about the role the Hill CDC has played in advocating for adoption and updating of the master plan. And then also when we did our slides earlier, someone may have missed it. You see the extensive parties who were involved in the process. So just wanted to address those concerns because I know people come in and out of the process at different times. But our office is at 2015 Center Avenue, always welcome to come in. We have an open door policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate those comments.
Sharonda, this is Tyann. I just wanted to address Marimba's comment. I did see ACH Clear Pathways a part of the Hill District Master Plan Committee, but we haven't participated in that. I know I was assigned to the committee for the most recent plan with the city of Pittsburgh, but I think my concern is the involvement of community residents being a part of the planning process. Have you guys engaged any residents in the planning process when you guys adopted it?
So it's not adopted yet. And
I
so
apologize. I used the wrong language, Sharonda. When the city began to take over for the planning process, have you guys engaged any community residents, homeowners, or residents of the Hill District community, or did you guys lay the foundation and then you plan to present to the community?
So there was engagement in those earlier phases, those initial first three phases from 2020 on. And so this phase that we're in right now, phase 4, will also have engagement of residents as well.
Okay, thank you. And I have one more question. The co-chair that was assigned to this, has he been a part of the recent conversations?
Are you referring to Council President Lavelle?
No, I think it's Derek Tillman.
He is a member of the steering committee. Yeah. And so we do have follow-up emails, follow-up meetings scheduled with the consensus group as well as the collaborative to again answer any questions that they have. And so I think that's scheduled for later on this week.
Well, I wasn't addressing the consensus group or the collaborative. I was just concerned about Derek because he was at a community meeting recently and he made us aware that he hasn't been involved as much with the plan in the past year. So that was one of my concerns as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, to be fair, a lot of this for the master plan was online during COVID, right? And so that's why there wasn't a lot of education and engagement, of course, with the residents, right? And so that's why we want to really help people understand the process and not just rush through it, because that's where the breakdown in communication comes, and then people don't really understand what's really going on in their community, and then they feel like even our groups are speaking for them, right? And that's not fair to the community in that kind of way. And we also know that it's totally impossible to reach everyone, right? But we want to really go over things as much as possible to get people to even understand what is an RCO, all this other jargon that people hear all the time. And Kim was right about the inclusionary zoning, because a long time ago, you know, even though we supported Lawrenceville's 10%, you know, other folks outside of the Hill, you know, are thinking that's okay for the Hill. Yes, we want development, but we also want community ownership too, right? And I mean, we're okay. We know private developers have to come in, but there needs to be some kind of benefit or agreement with us so that we can become owners of our own destination.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Carroll. I think I see a few more hands. We probably have time for 2, maybe 3 more questions.
Yes. Can you hear me? Okay. This is Derek Tillman. Yeah, I was referenced a few times by Tyann just recently, and also I noticed I was included in the document that Marimba shared at the beginning earlier in the meeting. So yes, I was definitely involved early on. I was a co-chair with the development committee. But there was, you know, we were meeting pretty regularly, and then there was a steep drop off for at least a year.
Right.
And I have not been engaged since. As I'm looking at this plan, I'm not really familiar with what's in it, you know, and I would say in its full context. Of course, I'm familiar with some of the context, but not enough to feel confident to move it forward. Just you all's review today with mobility, you said there were 8 goals, 17 policies, and 45 strategies. With infrastructure, 2 goals, 6 policies, 17 strategies. You didn't mention how many goals, policies, and strategies for development, community, and infrastructure, but just those 2 alone, that's a lot to digest. And you're now asking the community to digest it, engage, even though most folks don't do this full time. They have other jobs, they have other responsibilities. Digest this, vote to approve it in 60 days with a few engagements. That's a lot, especially being that this document and this policies will influence everything that happens in the Hill District for the next 10 years. I'm not against the plan. I'm not against it. I just think it wouldn't be appropriate to fast forward it with that kind of timeline. I think we need more time, wait more than 60 days, not saying another year, but more than 60 days to properly have engagement, to properly be able to answer questions, and to you know, make sure that this is even representative of the next 10 years and not, something from 20 years ago. But more than anything, just that folks really understand its contents. And I don't feel confident as a co-chair of the development committee that I don't even know what's in it enough. So imagine the average individual. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And so I do believe that Dr. Bay has reached out or is reaching out to a number of the organizations here this evening to have follow-up conversations. And so Dr. Bay's scheduler is Alexis Bonifate. And so if you've received an email from her to get a meeting scheduled, if you haven't received it already, then it is forthcoming. Two more questions and then we can wrap up.
Hi, this is Britt. I just wanted to echo some of the sentiments that Derek relayed, and I work with the Hill District Collaborative and the Hill District Consensus Group. Hill District Consensus Group was invited to be a part of the steering committee back in March of 2020, I want to say 4. And so I've actively been involved in that. And I can tell you this is work that I do day in, day out, and not even just based here locally, but in reviewing the 130-page document, all the appendices, it is a lot to digest. And I do want to echo that there needs to be an extended period of time because while there may be 6 or 8 goals for each of the 4, sections that have been communicated, when you're talking about the potential for anywhere between 15 to 20 or so policies related to those 4 sections, and then 45 and up unique strategies for each section, to expect the community to weigh in on that within a 60-day period, when those who do this work and have been a part of this engagement process at the community organization level is struggling to understand and wrap their heads around all that's there. It's difficult to feel comfortable. Well, you can't feel comfortable moving this forward. One of the questions I have is, what is the act like, aside from gathering the feedback, what recourse does the community have? What authority, what empowerment is there for the community if the community collectively wants to push back on some of the said policies or specific strategies outlined? Like, what does it actually mean? Is it just a collection of information so that can, then, have a specific response given back to the community? Or is it more of a, hey, we hear you, we understand, and we are going to actually change that based off of the collective opinion? So that's my first question. I have a second one to follow up on that, but what does that feedback process really mean and entail, and what recourse does the community have collectively if they do not want to adapt this? Like, how will you all decide and determine if this should be adapted?
No, that's a really great question. I will say that from the guidance of Dr. Bay, the draft plan is now available on the Engage PGH website. So this is ahead of any sort of 60-day or official public comment period. And so it is available for individuals or organizations to dig into now, to familiarize and kind of see what's already in the plan based on the process thus far. The 60-day period, as we have envisioned it, there will be public comment. We will collect comments, and we will also discuss which of those comments make sense to shape or add to or revise the document. And we will also share that feedback with Planning Commission as well. So we will collect all of those comments to make sure that everybody understands, particularly when it's going for adoption, what some of the comments were from the community itself.
Who decides when it goes for adoption? Sorry, I just had 2 more questions. Who decides when it, like you said that you'll gather feedback and you'll make adjustments as you decide. Who decides when this particular plan is ready for adoption?
Yeah,
and,
we'll
then,
work with
and just so I could throw it out there so I don't. So who decides when it goes for adoption? And sorry, you can answer that. There was one last thing I wanted to ask.
Yeah, my name's Loretta Payne, and owner of Hill District Public Notary, and my focus is right now is on for this meeting is regarding housing development.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just asking if we can think outside the box, because I can tell you that if developers don't want to come in because we are saying to them as a community, people cannot afford your product, then so be it. Because maybe we can spend more time talking about, co-ops and, as Carol said, land ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though, let's just say, oh well, let's developers have what they want, it's still going to lead to displacement. So I don't see how the outcome is going to be any different if we say, oh okay, yeah, well, developers can do X, Y, and Z, as opposed to let's think about something else. Because clearly letting developers into the Hill District, that's not solving our problems. We see that right now. But co-ownership, co-op, I think maybe that's the road that we can start exploring for affordability for homes and for ownership. Thank you.
Thank you. And
And
then
I just apologize if we could, just so sorry, just to revisit, who decides when the plan is ready for adoption before it's presented for approval process of adoption? I just was not clear on that. And then also the last question is, what is the actual rush? Because it sounds like there's a lot of different ideas and thoughts that could really truly contribute to this plan. So why are we rushing to adapt this plan if there's so much more work and understanding that's needed? So who finally decides adoption, like when it's ready to go? And what is that process and how, like what is that? And then why are we rushing and moving this forward so quickly?
Can
so
I
go
maybe
ahead.
say something? Um, I agree that we are hearing different comments and opinions on the timeline and what's still needed to finish this. The official adoption is done by the Planning Commission. And so there were goals because the comprehensive plan is coming up. There were goals to get this adopted before that engagement start because we had heard from the community that they already feeling engagement fatigue. So one of the goals, even in having a 60-day process, we extended it longer than the typical process, and now we're hearing that we may need more. But things to consider is we might then run into the engagement and stuff with the comprehensive plan. So I agree with you that we're hearing different opinions right now that may still need to be worked out. But what I wanted to highlight is that the reason we had this meeting is so if we've missed something thus far, we can put that and record it into the Engage PGH page and we can have that recorded somewhere. I hear your question about maybe how many people need to put it in Engage before it changes the plan. I
Right,
don't know.
that's my question.
I
Like,
don't.
what
I
when
hear
is the
you.
final decision? Like, what gets it to, like, how does it go to the planning commission to even be adopted for approval? Who is the deciding factor? What is the deciding factor?
Think it depends on what the feedback is. I don't think there's a standard right now. Um, and so what we're looking at is right now, technically there's going to be a 60-day review period, but because your plan is up and it's live right now in Engage PGH, people can start digesting and people can start giving comment right now, even more than the 60 days. So the typical thing is 30 days, but we understand, especially in underserved communities, that we need to give more time. We need to be meeting y'all where y'all are. So that was the intent behind the poll. It's not set in stone. It's not, this is a very rough draft plan, and our goal in being is to try to be transparent because we have heard from the community. It's been a year, we don't really know. And so that's why we wasn't originally going to open it today, but our director told us to open it for y'all today so that y'all there can be more transparency and more time for the digestion, more time to collect the comments. So if we need a more robust period, please tell us from the poll or the survey so that we can start implementing those things. But I think I hear your point is right. Like every single thing we can't do. But for me, what the community voice does is set some checks and balances so I can say, they said come to the library. Did we come to the library? Yes or no? They said meet them, here. So those are the things in the ways that I'm hoping community voice can inform this process. but I really wanted y'all to like know some of the timeline things that are going on. So it's the comp plan. But also the goal is to build the engagement so that it can be as robust and have as many entry points as possible based on what y'all tell us.
Yes.
And I think
Can I
it's fair
jump
to
in here,
note
please?
that.
Can I jump in here, please, Britt? Thank you. This is Marimba. I just wanted to say that there are a lot of people who are new to the process. First, let me just say, I have to recognize that city planning has stuck with this process through COVID, and a lot of transition within our own community. So, oftentimes, you know what I mean, there are critiques about how a process unfolds that the city administers. I have to say, in this particular case, Osei Akinlowton, as well as Sharonda, and a number of other city planners did stick with the process. They scheduled one-on-one meetings with steering committees and other community members who had been involved. They attempted to do some in-community input. And so I think it's really important to recognize that sometimes we just miss things, and sometimes we just are over our own capacity. And it doesn't mean that we can't provide our feedback to the city on what we would like, but do recognize that we had already advocated for an extended process, and city planning extended the 30-day process to 60 days. So I know that some people aren't Hill District residents, and they are speaking for Hill District residents and the community. And I think it's really important for us to center residents' voices in this particular process. Let's give people an opportunity to get onto the website and digest the plan. Hill CDC will print down the plan and keep it in their office. We will also recommend that happens with the library. That plan is housed at the library. I recommend that all of the RCOs print down a plan. That's what the RCOs are supposed to do. The RCOs are supposed to be digesting information and communicating with their constituents. So if the RCOs that are on the line and members of those RCOs have not been informed, that really is on the RCO, actually. That's the point of the RCO. So we also have to own responsibility for what we have done well and what we have not done well as RCOs, and make sure that our members are engaged early enough such that they do not get pulled into a process and inadvertently find that they are harming themselves in their community. In this particular case, as has been articulated a few different times, city planning is engaging in a city-wide comprehensive planning process. That means that the fullness of their capacity is going to be directed away from the Hill District and directed to the entire city of Pittsburgh, because everybody has limited bandwidth in this day and age. Now, what that means for us is that we can try to delay this process and never get our plan adopted, which would be a major hit and blow to the community. And here's why that would be a blow to the community. Because just like we have to get on the line and advocate for this, we will find ourselves having to advocate for every little thing that never got adopted by the city, because we never got our values, our goals, our ambitions documented and codified and embraced by the City Planning Commission for them to help us out in our community's goals for itself. So look, there's a lot of work that has to be done. We can all work together to get around the table in community, to read and to go through the plan. I noticed that some people are saying, well, my development isn't in the plan and this development is in the plan. This particular development master plan is not necessarily specific to individual developments. And so those are things that can be learned around smaller tables. But I just wanted to say, we've got our work cut out for us. We can do it. It is going to require some focused attention and commitment from everybody on this line so that we don't lose the opportunity to get our plan adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Marimba and Jasmine, for those comments. I will say internally on DCP's side, there's quite a bit of prep that we have to do of the Planning Commission before we even come for adoption. So typically processes will have briefings to the planning commission as well as a director's report to the planning commission. And so depending on the neighborhood, depending on the scale of the plan that's intended to be adopted, that can be up to like 3 to 5 different meetings of the planning commission, even before we attempt to adopt a plan. And so there's quite a bit of work that we also have to do internally to make sure that the planning commission is aware of the process. And so also that they've also had time to like dig into the document as well. So we do lead those discussions with the planning commission even ahead of any sort of attempt to adopt.
Thank you. That was very clarifying. And just to
This
confirm.
Pastor Snyder, I
Oh,
read.
one second, Pastor Snyder, I do apologize. For the Department of City Planning, is it true that the Greater Hill District Master Plan will not be adopted ever if it's not adopted prior to the citywide master plan? Because that's what I thought I just heard, that there is the fear that it will never be adopted and there will never be resources allotted or allocated to the Hill to get the Greater Hill District Master Plan adopted if it's not adopted before the work is started on the citywide. Is that true, Department of City Planning?
Well, that's a really interesting way to pose that question.
Yeah, because that's what it was presented as. And that could really strike fear, in the community if they feel as though it will never happen unless it happens right now before the citywide. And I do understand how it could be a challenge or what constraints, but I just want to make sure that we hear from the city planning team. Does it mean it will never be adopted if we do not push this to be adopted prior to the citywide planning process?
So I can share that it is true that we will be focusing on the comprehensive plan. And the thought is that once the comprehensive plan is done, we will start again to do neighborhood plans. But what that process looks like may be different than what the process looks like today. And so this early in the comprehensive plan process, I can't tell you what that looks like, but I can tell you that we do want to also update the neighborhood plan guide that informs how we do neighborhood plans. And so it does make some sense to start to complete this particular process ahead of the comp plan.
Yeah, can I speak now? Um, every mayor, when he comes in, normally updates the 20-year plan or the comprehensive plan, and they give direction to the planning commission, and they're revised over a period of time. Thirdly, I read through the plan while we were on here, and you don't have our correct history, and I'm quite sure you don't have the correct history of all of the organizations that are represented in the plan. And the Hill District is more than Councilman Lavelle and Marimba that gets to do an introduction to the plan. If it's going to be about the Hill District, it should be about everyone in the Hill District, an overview, and not two persons presenting in the introduction about the whole Hill District. We've been here for 217 years, and we've been wrote out the plan. And we all control 5 acres of land that we own, free and clear. And no one from the Planning Commission, since I've been here since 2019, have invited us to the table to engage in these conversations. And we're trying to do development. We're trying to meet the needs of the community. My position is it's never too late to open up and have community meetings and come and talk to the community. And it's your job to break down your sophisticated messaging to the level that the community can understand it. What are the timelines? Community planning is not going to go anywhere because you complete this plan in 60 days. You're going to have a job until you retire. And you're going to be doing these plans over and over and revising them over and over again. So the urgency I can understand. We want to be in line with what the mayor is trying to do. But what the community is saying, they have no idea what's in the plan. They have no idea how it's going to affect their neighborhood, their residency, how it's going to affect the churches, how it's going to affect the mosques, the synagogues, how it's going to affect the school districts. We have not had conversation. It's good you started in 2011 or whenever it was, but the last 4 years, the last 2 years we've been out of COVID, there's not been public dialogue. Then you come with this date to say, hey, we got 60 days to offer comment, and you're expecting lay people to read through a 105-page document. It's just kind of disingenuous of how community organizing should be done. So you are young people, you haven't been around a long time, but we have seen this thing over and over in every community. And so go back and do your research. Find out how many community plans there have been every time a new mayor comes into office or council comes in and get in place. So the urgency of saying we got to do this now, we're going to miss out on something, I think is disingenuous. So I hope that you all will understand the community is bigger than Councilman Lavelle, the Hill District CDC, the RCOs, and you got to and you should do some community engagement. Hire some people, have them go out and talk to the residents, pool of old people. I'm 65 years old. I represent a congregation where the average member is about 70, 75. They're not going to go to no website and read nothing. You got to go in and touch the people, and you want their vote, but now all of a sudden you don't want their opinion. So meet the people where they're at. Go back to your planning commission, engage some young people from the neighborhood, let them fill out some surveys in a language that they can understand, and then you can take that information, aggregate it, but to continue to have 5 or 6 or 10 people, and who appointed those 5 or 6 or 10 people to speak for the whole community? It's a powerful thing to have 5 people speak for the whole Hill District, or 5 organizations, and you haven't went down and talked to the property owners, the renters. Do a survey and ask them. And if this is a accumulation of a survey that has taken place in the last 5 years, I ain't talking about 10 or 15, but the last 5 years since COVID, everything has changed since COVID. So I'm hoping that you all young people will engage and be fair and give everyone. You already have what the RCOs want, or you have what the Hill District wants, you have what Lavelle want. Now you need to go back and see what the people want. And I think if you do that, it may be the same thing you have in your plan, but you owe the people an opportunity to engage. And if they don't engage one year, they don't engage this year, they're ready to engage. Now, I was at the community meeting and people are ready to engage. They need the opportunity to engage with the plan and in language that they understand. And I hope that you can take that and take it back and put into a planning commission, because the planning commission is supposed to plan for the people, for the residents, for the taxpayers. The language has to be so that the taxpayers can gurgitate it, understand it, and vote for political candidates who put things in place that's going to protect their land, their home, their tax base, and not be talked down to, not be coming on these kind of meetings where I had to go in and ask to speak at a public meeting. You're getting paid by my tax dollars, and I got to ask you to get permission to speak about my neighborhood. So I hope that you understand that this kind of engagement for people who are 65, 70, 80, 90 years old, who are probably the property owners in the Hill, they have not been engaged. So young people, take your time, hire some consultants, do what you got to do a survey. You can do all it in 60 days, and go out and ask the people for their opinion, what they feel about it. Do they even know what a master plan is, and how that's going to affect their property tax, how that's going to affect if you put bike lanes down their street, how that's going to affect where they're going to park their cars because they don't have a garage and they don't have an alley, how that's going to affect them being able to get out of their house or get into their house. So those kind of questions need to be posed to them before we put bike lanes all the way down people's houses and they don't have nowhere to park their cars. So those kind of engagements need to be said. How is this going to affect a homeowner who is 70 years old and has been parking in front of their house? Are you going to give special parking permits to them? How are we going to engage with the rising property tax? So I just think, in a way, you got 60 days, but to say we got to comment on a plan that 5 or 6 people, which you have put together for the whole neighborhood, and you're revising that from a plan from 2011, is good. But when I looked at the history that y'all put in of these organizations, our history for Bethel, we're 217 years old, is incomplete and it's inaccurate. You got us down as Bethel AME Zion Church. That is an offense to us. We're the oldest organized Black church in the country, started through the Free African Society in 1787. The AME Zion is different than the AMEs. And you got us in the plan as the AME Zion Church. So I hope that you young people will give those organizations that you have committed in your plan a chance to adopt their own history, to tell their own story in a way that you all can honor the legacy of the people who should be part of the Hill District. And the Hill District is way more than just jazz and music and art. It was a community, and it's still a community where people paid their taxes. They sacrificed to fight against slavery. They sacrificed to fight against Jim Crow. They sacrificed to get the Black man the right to vote, to get the woman the right to vote. And Bethel, along with Philadelphia, has a tremendous history that we helped end slavery and segregation. Open up the first college, Wilberforce University, with Pastor Lewis Woodson, right there, pastor of Bethel AME Church in the 1800s, is known across the country as the father of Black nationalism. Wrote all across the country and is wrote out of the history of Bethel. I mean, out of the history of Pittsburgh. So I just want to encourage you all to understand the significance of what you have in this plan, that you are not giving churches, synagogues, organizations who are 50, 60, 100, 200 years old. They have not been able to tell their story in this introduction. And I don't know who put it together, but you should allow those organizations that you are quoting to tell their own story. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak. And I'm hoping that we can put this together in a way that allow every organization that is mentioned to tell their own story in this plan. Because if this is what's going to be carried forward, after my congregation is 60 and 70, 80 and 90 years old, you're going to have an incomplete history story that's in this master plan. It's not telling our history. So I hope that you all understand what I'm saying, and I hope we get an opportunity to engage in a way. And I'll find a way to send our corrected history to you so that you can, put that in the plan. And our current reparations should be in the plan. And what we're trying to do in our current 80,000 square feet where our church currently sits at, and Trinity AME Church, which is about a quarter of an acre of land, that we're trying to do a development all around that corner. So I'm hoping that we can engage with you in planning in a way that's significant, and that other organizations and stakeholders and community members can feel empowered and not belittled and not talked down to, but talk up to, that their voice matters, their vote matters, their voice should matter. And, and this is difficult work. This is not easy work. This is difficult work because the community changes, the people changes, the stakeholders change. And as the community change and the stakeholders change, that means you got to re-engage with those who are there, who want to see and make a difference in the process. So I commend everyone who's been here for 15 or 20 or 30 years. I commend all of you. But there are new voices, new opportunities, and they should have an opportunity to share in the plan. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
Amen,
Thank you.
Pastor.
Reverend Snyder, we also have to keep things moving. I know you would agree with that.
I don't have a question. I do want to agree with Reverend Snyder, because we've been using our RCO to educate people. And like Loretta said about us becoming owners, our reparations and everything like that. So it's not like we're sitting back doing nothing. And then another thing, once this plan is adopted and after looking at all those pages, it doesn't even lend to how the community and the things that we are working on, how is it going to work? Is this plan going to be flexible around if we're going to do a co-op with renters, or, have a land trust and so on and so on? So I just wanted to put that out there because it also, since we have been coming together and it has been over COVID, we've been doing a lot of healing. People forget about the healing piece. People just jump right back into things because healing is important. So all of those things really matter. And looking at that plan currently, it even seems a little top heavy, and it makes some of us look like we're unintelligent, that we can't even go sit and make a plan around community ownership. So that's what I wanted to say. Because for real, this is about our liberation, in particular, our Black liberation, you know, in particular, because we built this country, and I don't want to take everybody back there, but we have to move forward because this is a good vision. But how do we really work it out and engage people in the right way so everybody can be on board and everybody can have their story told and everybody could be a part of this, in particular, Black and brown people?
Where can we get a printed copy? I'm with Reverend Snyder. There's people who's not going to get on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they can't print out 100 and something pages. You know, people need to study this plan. So, you know, where can people get printed copies of this plan to digest it and go over it and study it?
Kindly read it. You can find a copy at the Hill CDC. You can find a copy at the library starting probably at the beginning of next week, if not the end of this week. I'm sure other RCOs may be willing to print it down as well, but
we gotta pay for that. We don't have money for that.
We don't either. We're gonna sell some brownies.
Can the city look?
Hold
Can the
on,
city
Carol,
help
I
us
was gonna
out?
say
if we can,
we can sing together. But let me.
Now, can we get help from
can
the
I finish,
city?
Carol? Carol, can I finish, please? I'll be done in 1 second. So we're open 9 to 5 every day. The library is open late on one day of the week. We'll make sure that there's a printed copy. I'm sure the city planning department would be more than willing to print down a copy for all of the RCOs as well.
No, I want a copy to take with me. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. I need one to take with me because, you know, I work with people, I volunteer with people. I want to be able to talk about it intelligently. And the only way I'm going to be able to do that if I can sit down and study it. And I can't do that at the library. And, you know, I mean, I need to write on it and stuff like that. So again, where can I get a printed copy?
If you call the church and say you need a copy, we will print out a copy for you. Just come by the church and pick it up. No charge at all. Okay?
Thank you, Reverend.
I'll work on that tomorrow. I'll print out copies, and all you do is call the church. You can come pick up a copy and get it to the community. Okay? Now, you know, I'll do 100 free, but after that, you know, it might be 50 cents. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sharonda,
And people your way. Thank you.
Jasmine or Sharonda, this is Tyann from the Kaufman Center.
Uh-huh.
If city planning would like to host a community meeting to go over with residents who are not familiar with or technology savvy, should I say, you're more than welcome to host a community meeting at the Kaufman Center.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for that.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ty.
I just wanted to highlight that these are great ideas, and our goal in hosting that poll tonight was to field y'all ideas. So if y'all want paper copies sprinkled around the hill at the libraries, at wherever, or us to print them, that was what I was hoping to capture in that survey. If you think we need to do door knocking, and that's where we need to meet people, that's what I was hoping to capture in that survey so that we can build something that's informed by y'all voice. I can hear what y'all saying now, but y'all know, like, when you hear something today and then tomorrow we might not know, and it's recorded so I can go back and watch this. But I really am hoping to encourage y'all to fill out that survey and poll so that we can create something that has the access points that you all are looking for.
Understood, Jasmine. Thank you so much, because I really heard you when you were speaking earlier, and I appreciate how you're trying to engage the community, especially those residents and homeowners who are not on these calls. So yeah, if you guys want to host a community meeting, you can, and then we can do hard copy surveys for those who attend the meeting. But I think that would be good. Thank you so much.
Oh, that's
Would
great.
it be possible for city planning to send, say, maybe 5 printed copies to each of the churches in the Hill? The churches could then distribute them, copy them, and distribute them to their memberships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can look into.
Why not make that a starting point? Maybe next week, every church in the Hill, send them a bunch of copies with a cover letter asking them. Maybe the church can have a session with their members to talk about it.
That's a great idea.
Yep.
Is it possible to pull out the policies that are highlighted in the master plan? And I know that, there's several policies per each bucket, those 4 buckets, and there were strategies that were highlighted. I think maybe even pulling those out so, people can see, okay, this was the goal, but this is the actual policy, and this is what the policy states. And then maybe there be another printout or something that then goes over the strategies so that we can kind of tie it back, because I
Okay.
think that's going to be where all the detail that people really are going to want to digest and understand is what policy is going into play, and then what strategy is being written out as a way to actually implement this policy.
Okay. That's a good idea. We can figure out how to lay something out so that it's easy to take away and people can digest it without necessarily having to read the whole entire document if they don't get a chance to.
That would be
I did
great.
want to give, I'm sorry, I wanted to give Nyota a chance to speak because they did ask a question in the chat, and I wasn't able to ask it when they asked it. So please go ahead with your question.
Bowman. First and foremost, my name is Nyota Robinson. I am a resident of the Hill District, and I am fairly new to this process, but not entirely. So I want to thank Ms. Carol Hardiman for inviting me today to this meeting. I forgive my voice, it quakes sometimes when I talk. But to that point, I want to say thank you for all the ideas that were uplifted in the time people have put into this plan. I personally represent the disability community here within the Hill District and within the city, and I have not had time to look at this and digest this. I have had sprinkles of conversations with some of the people that are involved with this process. I have been newly appointed to the city's community data justice collaborative to discuss how data is being used in various communities throughout the city. I bring all that up to say, when I hear people talking, I do not hear any reference to the disability community made. And I know that I think the Reverend for highlighting the elderly population within the community. And I don't want to be disrespectful to them or the disability community and lump us all together and just assume that that's how we're going to get our information. So with that being said, I would personally like accessible information for people who have low vision. People like me now, because of a disability, it takes a little bit more time for me to process this information. And I appreciate also it being accessible for people like me to take it, go through it, and take it back to the community. Lastly, I would like to say that I also sit on the board of Access Mob, which deals with transportation and mobility. I have a disability that is affected by mobility. So my number one pressing concern would be parking. I happen to frequent places that do not have accessible parking. For someone like me who is a mother of a young child, as you can imagine, trying to navigate my community with not accessible parking and other features that would make our living, and when I say our living, people of the disability community, whether they choose to identify or not, to feel welcoming. So I just want to take this opportunity to state that if we're asking for people to have time to review, where has the specific buy-in from the disability community been considered? And that was my question in the chat. Thank you for the time. And I look forward to contributing whatever information, resources, and bringing more people to the table who can share in the vision of making the Hill District inclusive for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Can I speak now? Can you all hear me?
Yep, go ahead, Dr. Ellis.
Okay, thank you. So just a few things. And actually, because of Nyota's question, I'm going to start with her. Nyota, thank you for your contribution. And I just want to state that this is why both history and the present are so important, because when we started this process about, we were the first community to decide we're going to do a community-based master plan. And by community-based, we meant community-based. So there were at least 200 people at almost every meeting. If not 200, it was always about 100. So everybody needs to be clear that what I'm hearing from a lot of the different voices on this call is that, yes, it was definitely over 15 years ago now. That 15 years ago, when we started off as a community-based master plan, it started with the community. We had a blank slate, and it was like, okay, where's the housing? Where are our parks? What's going to be our main avenue? Is it going to be Center Avenue? Do we want to go back to Wiley Avenue? We had that conversation, and some answers were more obvious than others, but it happened. And so we even had a Hill Planning School that, I'm just going to mention that my mother taught in, that was at the Hill Consensus Group, but everybody was involved. And so what I'm hearing now is that because of all of the work that a lot of different community members weighed in on in terms of the master plan, and unfortunately, because it took so long, right, for us to get here, and there are reasons for that, we're now starting with like a more top-heavy approach with the organizations, and now we're at the point of community. So I do hear people's concerns because we're doing it in reverse. But I don't think that we should disregard our past, because there was a ton of community members. And also, I don't think that we should disregard our present. We just need to right balance everything, because things have changed. And that is very, very important. What we thought 15 years ago and what we wanted, some of it is consistent, but a lot has changed. And we know more now. Some of us know better. There's a lot that's been going on. So I just want to mention that. And to Nyota's question, sis, Demetria Penny in particular, she's a very prominent person in our community. She is wheelchair bound, and I remember her being a major part of the Hill District Master Plan and what she contributed. And I just want you to know that she's one person. I can't say she's the only person, but she's one person that has always been very outspoken, a major advocate for the disability community in terms of access, and everything. So I hope you feel, comfortable. And she wouldn't have any problem with me mentioning her name, because she's very open about everything that she represents. So I just wanted to say that to you. And then so another thank you is to the Office of City Planning, because like has been mentioned before, I'll say I've made a lot of the meetings, but I haven't been able to make every meeting. So what I really do appreciate from the Office of City Planning, from Sharonda, from OSE, is that they would say, okay, we've got office hours at this time. And so I looked at my schedule and I said, okay, I can't make those office hours, but I can make this right here. And so, I got on the phone with the Office of City Planning and I walked through some of my concerns. And so I want for everybody to know, like, that's possible. We need to do that. And because I represent an organization, I'm on the steering committee, like, that was really important. Now, having said that, I've missed some other things. So Pastor Snyder actually got me, right on this call. And it's also good to hear from you, Ms. Lavelle, is that our history is really important. And I'm literally the historian of the Hill District, okay? Now, I have not contributed to whatever introduction was created by Marimba Alliance and Councilman Lavelle. I just heard their names. That's something I have missed because I've been focused on other parts of the master plan. So I pledge to you all today that I will go through that introduction. I will talk to Councilman Lavelle because he's our elected representative, and I will seek to change and add my direct input into that introduction, because Pastor Snyder is correct. The Hill District was literally founded in 1827. And it is absolutely true that while we do great art, great jazz, all of these things, we have a ton of wonderful political history, spiritual history that definitely needs to be included. Now, this isn't going to be an encyclopedia. This is just an introduction to the master plan. But I do think it's really important for us to get our overall history correct. So I pledge to everybody on this call that I will go through it and I will make some changes and talk to Councilman Lavelle about it and thankful in the Office of City Planning so that we can have a full and comprehensive and then I guess I haven't seen it, so forgive me for this, but it sounds as though there's been some errors made and some deletions. So I'll make sure that it gets fixed. So that's all I wanted to say, and thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis.
So I have Dr. Ellis said you've been appointed to do as the historian for the city planning for the Hill District Master Plan. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I'm literally the Hills historian, the Hill District's historian.
No. But what I'm asking
wait. No, nobody has been appointed to do history specifically, Loretta. There is no one historian in the Hill District.
Okay.
There are many people in the Hill District
who
are historians. But everyone, including Kim, should absolutely contribute
executive
to
director of
developing the history of.
And we were
everyone in
15 years ago.
particular.
So
We
I'm
can
not
sing
going to
together, Kim. We can sing together.
Try to disregard or disrespect my work, Marimba. Please.
We can sing together.
Please don't do that. Yeah, exactly. We can't talk together. And I was speaking.
I thought you were done. Okay, go ahead.
No, I wasn't. And so, no, Loretta. I was answering Loretta. No, Loretta, I have not been appointed by anybody. I didn't even know that there was an introduction that had some history that was supposedly written by Marimba and Councilman Lavelle.
No, I did not write the history, Kim. You're just wrong. You need to read the plan and come back. You're speaking out of ignorance. Just give yourself some time.
No, I am stating what Pastor Snyder said.
And he was wrong.
Okay, so I knew nothing about it. That's what I'm saying.
I wasn't wrong. Remember, you did do an introduction.
I did not do the history, Pastor. Let's move on. This is not productive. This is not productive. Let's move on. Let's keep it professional. Let's keep it professional and let's move on.
I was wrong. I know.
The history was not written by Councilman Lavelle nor Marimba. Everyone is welcome to contribute to the history.
Just to clarify,
and we should move forward.
Yeah, I was going to say what we can do is add another piece to the Engage PGH page that takes input specifically on the introduction. Right now, we have it for the chapters, and the introduction is new. Like I was saying, we weren't originally going to release this today, but we did for more transparency. And so please forgive us if there are errors in that part. But again, this is a very rough draft. Nothing is in stone. And so the goal of this meeting was to give y'all the opportunity to give feedback on the page. So we can add another place on the page that specifically takes feedback on the introduction so that we can see where we may have made mistakes and we can fix them before the final one is done. And we can include as many voices as possible.
Yeah, and I'll just provide a little bit of clarity. We did invite the mayor and the co-chairs to provide an introductory letter for the Hill District Master Plan. So I just want to make sure that people understand that those are two different things. So we did invite the mayor and the co-chairs, which are Council President Lavelle and Marimba Lyons, to provide an introductory letter for the Greater Hill District Master Plan update. The introduction in terms of like history and different things like that, I think that I just want to make sure that we're not confusing those two things. All right, everybody. So it's a little bit after 8. We've had a lot of really great conversation. We do appreciate everybody hopping on to start to dig into the draft of the Hill District Master Plan. And so we do encourage everyone to fill out that survey so that we know where to be. And we heard some really great ideas in terms of where we can print out the draft plan and actually locate it in the community so that people can access it and take a copy away. So we really appreciate those recommendations as well. And then also just encouraging everyone to go to Engage PGH to start to enter their comments in about the various chapters. And like Jasmine said, we'll add another tab specifically for the introduction. So thank you all so much. It is greatly appreciated. Either myself or Dr. Bay will be back in touch so that we can continue to have dialogue. Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'm going to stop the recording, and we will continue conversation. Thank you all. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.